Good evening and welcome back. Tonight we travel far beyond the noise of the world, into a land shaped by dunes, starlight, and stories older than memory. This is the calm and quiet beginning of the entire mythology of Oman, told slowly, softly, and without urgency. Allow yourself to settle into the rhythm of the desert night as we begin our gentle journey. Imagine that you are standing at the edge of the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter, one of the largest deserts on Earth. The air is warm and still, the sky a deep shade of indigo stretching endlessly above you. There is no sound except the soft whisper of shifting sand carried by a faint breeze that seems to drift from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. In the distance, the dunes roll into the horizon like calm waves on an ancient golden sea. The night is peaceful. There is no rush here, no weight of time. Only the soft glow of the moon resting on the desert's surface, illuminating the curves of the dunes with a gentle silver light. This is where the people of Oman told their oldest stories, quiet stories, whispered stories, stories carried by wind and memory through thousands of years. They told them to pass the time on long journeys, to comfort one another during cold desert nights, and to explain the mysteries of a world that felt vast, powerful, and alive, before cities, before maps, before roads winding through the mountains and coasts. The people of Oman looked at the land around them and felt presence, not fear, not danger, but presence, something watching, something listening, something old. Out of this silence emerged the mythology of Oman, a peaceful blend of spirits, legends, lost cities, and gentle beings shaped by wind and earth. These were not stories meant to frighten. They were stories meant to accompany travelers through the night. You take a slow breath as you picture yourself sitting beside a small desert fire. The flames dance carefully, casting soft, golden light against the surrounding sand. Above you, the stars shimmer with unusual clarity, each one seeming close enough to touch. The heat of the day has faded, replaced by a cool, comforting stillness that makes the desert feel like a living creature, inhaling and exhaling beneath you. This stillness is where the myths begin. The people of Oman believed that the desert was alive, moving, breathing, shifting like a great creature beneath the moon. They believed the wind carried voices, not loud or sharp, but faint murmurs like distant memories drifting across the dunes. These whispers were said to be the voices of the jinn, beings of air and fire, unseen companions of the night. But unlike the frightening tales from other regions of the world, the jinn of Oman were calm, patient, and quiet. They walked alongside travelers, unseen and unfelt, guiding them gently through the vast emptiness. Some jinn were said to live in the sand itself, appearing as faint shadows at the edge of vision. Others lived in rocks in abandoned settlements, or in the curve of a dune where the wind always seemed to sing. At night, when travelers rested, they often left a small space beside their fire, just a gesture of respect, a silent invitation for peaceful spirits to share warmth. In the quiet of the desert, everything was shared: stories, warmth, silence, and sleep. The dunes shift softly as you listen, and the world feels incredibly quiet. You feel the weight of the day melt away, and your breathing becomes slow and steady, matching the gentle pulse of the night around you. The desert opens itself like a vast book, every grain of sand a page, every breeze a whisper of something ancient. It is a world untouched by noise, untouched by haste, untouched by anything but the patience of time. As the fire crackles softly, you begin to feel the presence of the desert more clearly, not as something supernatural, but as something deeply peaceful. The Bedouin, who crossed these lands for centuries, believed that if you listened carefully, you could hear the sands telling stories of travelers long gone, not in words, not even in sounds, but in a quiet feeling that rests between silence and imagination. Tonight, we begin our exploration of all the tales that shaped Oman, the jinn of the dunes, the guardians of ancient forts, the lost city swallowed by sands, the spirits said to watch over mountain passes, and the myths carried by sailors across the Arabian Sea. But we will move slowly, gently, letting each image unfold at its own pace, like a lantern glowing in the dark. The desert breathes again, and you breathe with it. The night deepens, the stars shimmer faintly, and the dunes lie still under the moonlight. This is the beginning of the story, the calm before the legends rise softly from the sands. Tonight, and for as long as you wish, let the mythology of Oman carry you deeper into rest, deeper into comfort, and deeper into the quiet heart of the night. The night stretches endlessly around you as you continue your slow journey through the calm, breathing world of the Omani desert. The dunes behind you fall away into soft, wavering shadows, and ahead of you rises a gentle slope leading toward a quiet ridge. Your footsteps leave temporary impressions that the wind slowly begins to erase, as if the desert is carefully tucking away every sign of your presence, not out of hostility, but out of a quiet wish to keep the land smooth and dreamlike. As you walk, the air grows even stiller and the moon climbs higher, bathing everything around you in pale silver light. Your shadow moves softly beside you, stretching and shrinking with the curves of the dunes. The world feels untouched, preserved in a kind of peaceful stillness that has lasted for thousands of years. This is the hour when the desert becomes a sanctuary, when its voice becomes softer, when its stories become easier to hear. The people of Oman believed that the jinn were most active during nights like this, calm, clear, without wind or noise. Not active in a restless way, but in a wandering, gentle manner, drifting alongside travelers as silent companions. It was said that if the night felt unusually peaceful, it meant that a jinn had chosen to walk near you, watching with quiet curiosity. You look around, sensing that presence, not as something supernatural, but as a comforting feeling, like being quietly accompanied by the land itself. The dunes seem softer, the stars seem closer, and the air feels warmer, as though the desert is holding you gently in its vast embrace. Far in the distance, the outline of rocky hills appears on the horizon. These hills, the Bedouin believed, were home to a different kind of jinn spirits of stone and earth, older and slower than the jinn of the sands. They were said to sleep through the heat of the day, awakening only when the earth cooled and the night settled. Unlike the wandering jinn of the dunes, these mountain jinn preferred silence so complete that even the wind would hesitate to pass by their resting places. As you continue walking, you imagine these ancient beings lying deep within the rocks, listening to the movements of the world above. Travelers would speak softly when crossing near mountains at night, not out of fear but out of respect. They believed that quiet footsteps and calm voices pleased the mountain jinn, who would respond by granting a safe, smooth journey through the rough terrain. You walk closer to the base of the hills now, feeling the sand gradually give way to firmer ground. The air grows slightly cooler, carrying with it the faint scent of stone warmed during the day. The moonlight touches the rocks gently, revealing their rough shapes and deep shadows. You stand still for a moment, breathing in the peaceful heaviness of the place. Somewhere within these stones, the legends say, spirits rest like ancient memories, waiting for nothing except the passage of time. The Bedouin believed that if you stood quietly near the rocks at night, you might hear faint echoes, not voices, not sounds, but impressions, memories of long-forgotten stories carried within the earth. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the silence settle around you. The world feels heavier here, but not in a burdensome way. It feels grounded, rooted, anchored in something older than the dunes and older than the stars. You sense that in this place, time does not rush. It drifts like sand carried by the slowest breeze. When you open your eyes, you continue your gentle walk along the edge of the hills. The path is uneven but manageable. Every few steps, the stone shifts softly beneath your foot, rolling slightly before settling again. The sound is tiny, barely audible, but in this vast silence, even the smallest sound feels like part of a grand orchestration of night and nature. As you walk, you feel a soft warmth behind you, perhaps the lingering heat of the rocks, perhaps the presence of a wandering jinn, perhaps simply the desert drawing closer around you. Whatever it is, it feels safe. You breathe slowly, letting the calm fill your chest, letting the night unfold within you like a vast, gentle canvas. Soon the hills fade into the distance behind you, and the desert opens once again, wide and smooth. The dunes rise like soft pillows beneath the sky, and you return to the comfortable rhythm of walking on sand. Step breath, each movement melting into the next. The Bedouin often said that the desert teaches patience. It shows you how to move slowly, how to listen, how to rest, even while walking. And as you continue your journey through this serene world, you begin to understand what they meant. Every step feels lighter, every breath feels deeper, every moment feels softer. The sky above you shimmers with stars, and the moon continues its slow arc across the heavens, illuminating your path with effortless grace. The night is quiet, warm, endless, and somewhere in this vastness, the jinn of the desert walk with you silent, ancient, gentle. This is the heart of Omani mythology. Not loud stories, not violent legends, but quiet companionship with a living land. You walk deeper into the night, and the night walks with you. As you travel farther into the calm expanse of the desert, the landscape begins to change once more. The dunes become taller, their slopes smoother, and the air grows stiller, as though the world is holding its breath. The moonlight paints the sand with soft lines of silver, creating patterns that shift gently as the breeze touches the surface. Everything feels slow, effortless, and deeply peaceful. Ahead, a single dune rises higher than the rest. It stands like a silent guardian overlooking the vast desert below. Something about its shape draws you toward it, and you begin to climb, placing each step carefully, feeling the sand shift beneath your feet in long, slow waves. The climb is steady and unhurried. There is no destination here, only movement, only the calm rhythm of your breathing mingling with the softness of the night. When you reach the top, the view opens like a quiet revelation. To the east, the desert stretches into a haze of moonlit silver. To the west, the faint outline of ancient pathways crosses the sands, and directly below, nestled at the foot of the dune, stands the shadowy silhouette of a low stone structure, worn, weathered, and partially buried by time. It is the kind of place that would disappear in daylight, blending into the desert like a forgotten memory. But under the moon, the stones glow softly, and you feel a gentle pull to walk toward them. This, the old stories say, is where some of the oldest jinn once gathered. Not to haunt or disturb, but to rest, to listen, to watch the world grow and change slowly century after century. In Omani folklore, such places were considered peaceful marks of ancient presence, spots where spirits lingered without intention, simply existing as part of the land. You descend the dune, taking slow steps, letting gravity guide you downward. The sand flows around your legs like warm water, and when you reach the base, the air grows slightly cooler, filled with a faint earthy scent from the exposed stone. The structure is simple, 3 walls, half buried with soft drifts of sand piled inside. Moonlight spills across the stones in smooth, gentle layers. You step inside and sit down on a flat rock. The stone holds a bit of lingering warmth, as if it has been waiting for someone to rest upon it. The silence here feels different, not empty, but sheltered, like a small pocket of stillness carved out of the night. The Bedouin believed that places like this were touched by jinn who enjoyed solitude. They were not protectors or watchers or beings of power. They were quiet spirits who appreciated the same silence that humans sought in the desert. Travelers who rested in such places spoke of dreams that felt lighter, deeper, and more peaceful than any other night. You lean back slightly, letting your body settle into the stone. The wind shifts softly outside, moving through the dunes in long, soothing currents. From the open window of the ruined structure, you can see the stars perfectly framed against the sky, as if someone placed them there deliberately to be admired in moments like this. Your thoughts begin to slow, your breathing deepens. The night wraps itself around you like a soft blanket. In ancient stories, the jinn of these quiet places had no names, no faces, no forms. They were simply presences, gentle and vast, like the sky itself. They drifted through the land, sometimes leaving faint impressions, sometimes touching a dream, sometimes making a traveler feel just slightly more at ease. Not miracles, not magic. Simple, quiet companionship. You remain in the stone shelter for a long while, letting the world fade into a steady, comforting hum. When you finally stand up, the sand shifts beneath your feet again, and the night welcomes you back into its open arms. You continue walking, no longer aware of the passage of time. The dunes move slowly around you. The wind rises and falls. The stars drift across the sky. Everything feels seamless, like a single long breath stretching across the desert. You notice something unusual ahead, a faint line of stones arranged in a circle, half sunken into the sand. These circles, the Bedouin believed, marked the gathering places of ancient tribes. People would rest here during long journeys, sharing stories of creatures born from the desert wind, tales of stars guiding lost travelers, and gentle myths about jinn who appeared as flashes of light on the horizon. You step into the circle and sit once more, feeling the sand warm beneath you. The moon glows directly overhead now, casting the circle in soft clarity. You imagine travelers from centuries ago sitting exactly where you sit, their camels resting nearby. their fires burning quietly, their voices low and soft as they shared stories of the spirits who wandered the sands. You feel connected to them, not through time, but through the quiet, the same quiet they listen to, the same quiet you feel now. This is where the myths of Oman come alive, in the spaces where the world slows, where silence gathers, where the desert whispers its ancient, endless stories. You breathe the desert air gently, letting it settle inside you. You listen, you rest, and the night welcomes you deeper into its timeless calm. The night deepens into a richer shade of blue as you rise slowly from the ancient stone circle and continue your peaceful walk through the desert. The air feels softer now, as if the world has exhaled, releasing any remaining tension into the quiet, endless sky. Each step you take sinks gently into the sand, forming temporary footprints that fade almost instantly, erased by the patient movement of the desert. The night does not hurry, and because you are part of the night now, neither do you. As you drift forward, the dunes begin to widen. Their curves smooth out into long, gentle shapes, like waves that have come to rest. The moonlight spills across them in long silver strokes, and the sky above stretches open like a vast, serene canopy filled with shimmering constellations. The stars appear closer here, almost low enough to touch, and their faint glow feels warm against your skin. The Bedouin often said that stars were companions on long journeys, never speaking, never leading, simply existing nearby as reminders that nobody travels alone. In the distance, you notice a faint rise in the landscape, a place where the sand gives way to flat ground marked with old, half-buried stones. As you walk closer, you realize you are approaching an even older gathering place, something quiet, forgotten, and softened by centuries of wind. Large stones form a wide arc in the sand, worn so smooth by time that they look like polished bones of the desert itself. This place, according to ancient Omani tradition, was known as a Majlis al-Samt, a gathering place of silence. Travelers stopped here not to talk, but to rest, to listen, to let the desert speak in its own gentle way. Stories say that these circles were built by tribes long before writing existed, long before fortresses or markets or trade routes. People gathered here to reflect, to breathe, to let the night settle their minds. Some believed the quiet jinn gathered too, drawn to the calm that humans created. You step inside the circle and the air shifts in a subtle way, almost like a soft sigh. The sand feels slightly cooler beneath your feet. The world seems to dim around the edges, leaving only the stone ring and the moonlit sky above you. You sit down slowly, leaning back on your hands, letting the simple structure cradle you in its quiet embrace. Here the silence is deeper. It has weight, but not heaviness. It is the kind of silence that makes thoughts slow down, then drift away. You feel as though you are sitting not in a place, but in a moment that stretches endlessly backward and forward through time. Other travelers sat here, other nights passed, other stories rested in the air, but the silence remains the same. The Bedouin believed that in such places, memories of the land became stronger. They said the desert held countless stories, beneath its surface stories of traders, wanderers, lost caravans, and ancient spirits who lived in harmony with the sand. If one sat long enough in a circle like this, one might feel those memories stirring, not as images or visions, but as gentle sensations, a shift in the air, a comforting warmth, a sense of being watched over. As you sit within the circle, you feel a soft calm flowing through your chest, easing the thoughts that linger at the edge of your mind. Your breath becomes slow and steady, matching the natural rhythm of the desert and quiet. You tilt your head back, looking at the sky above. Thousands of stars shine with steady light, unmoving, patient. They seem to hold stories of their own stories, of travelers who looked up just as you do now, searching for meaning in the soft glow of the universe. After a long, peaceful moment, you rise from the circle. The sand clings gently to your hands and clothing, as if reluctant to let you go, but the night invites you onward, and you follow. You walk slowly, letting your steps sink deeply into the dune as the land transitions once again. The ground becomes firmer, the sand thinner, eventually giving way to a flat stretch of earth scattered with small white stones. Ahead of you, faintly illuminated by the moon, lies the outline of an old path, an ancient caravan route used by traders who once traveled from the coast of Oman deep into the interior. For centuries, these traders carried frankincense, dates, spices, and stories. They followed the stars at night, trusting the quiet guidance of the sky. The stories say that travelers often saw soft lights along the horizon, faint glimmers that flickered and disappeared. These lights, the traders believed, were jinn traveling alongside them, not to warn or lure, but simply to accompany. These were known as Nur al-Samt, lights of silence, gentle presences moving through the desert, visible only to those who walked with patience. You follow the faint path, imagining the many caravans that passed here, their camels stepping calmly through the night, bells jingling softly, fires crackling in distant camps. The desert was full of life, then not crowded, but alive with gentle movement, with quiet voices sharing stories under the vast sky. As you walk, the night becomes cooler, and a soft breeze picks up, brushing across your face like a quiet greeting. You welcome it, letting the cool air offer comfort after the long walk through warm sand. The wind carries a faint scent, earthy, distant, like old stones that have held heat all day and are now releasing it slowly into the night. Ahead, you notice a rise in the ground and the shadow of a larger structure. You walk closer, and the outline becomes clearer. It is an old rest shelter, carved partly into rock, a simple, open-sided space used by travelers for shade during the day and calm during the night. Many of these shelters dot the ancient trade routes, built to offer relief from the sun and a sense of safety under the stars. Inside the shelter, sand has drifted across the floor, forming soft mounds that look like small dunes. You step inside and sit down along the smooth stone wall, feeling the faint warmth it still holds. The structure blocks the breeze just enough that you feel cocooned within the stone, protected from the open expanse while still deeply connected to the night. The shelter carries a deep quiet, the kind that makes the world feel gentle and distant. This is the kind of place where travelers once whispered stories of the jinn of the coast, the spirits believed to watch over the sea, guiding ships across calm and storm alike. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the silence of this place settle around you. The dune outside, the soft wind, the steady breath of the desert all blend together in a soothing harmony that eases every remaining thought from your mind. Soon you will continue your journey. Soon you will walk deeper into the myths of Oman. But for now, in this quiet shelter, you simply rest, listening to the calming heartbeat of the desert night. The night grows deeper still as you rise slowly from the stone shelter and begin walking once more into the calm, vast openness of the desert. The world feels softer now, as if every grain of sand has settled into its quietest form, creating a landscape so still that even time seems hesitant to move. The moon hangs high above, glowing like a gentle lantern suspended in the sky, its pale light guiding your every step. You move forward slowly, your feet sinking into smooth, cool sand. The desert stretches endlessly in all directions, a sea of soft curves and gentle shadows. There is no beginning here, no end, only the steady, peaceful continuity of the land. Each dune rises like a slow breath, frozen in the night, and each hollow dips like a sigh released by the earth long ago. Somewhere deep in the desert, beyond the dunes and the horizon, lies a place spoken of. In countless Omani stories, the lost city of Ubar. Known as the Atlantis of the Sands, Ubar was said to be a grand and wealthy city, rich in trade and culture, until the desert swallowed it whole. Travelers told stories of its towers disappearing beneath the earth, of caravans that never returned, of distant lights flickering on the horizon where no settlement remained. As you walk through the night, you begin to feel as though you are approaching the outskirts of that ancient legend, not physically but spiritually, as if the desert is preparing to whisper memories of the city to those who walk calmly and quietly enough to hear. The ground beneath you begins to change slowly. The sand becomes firmer, mixed with small stones that crunch gently under your steps. Sparse vegetation appears, low shrubs and dry branches that cast long, thin shadows under the moonlight. The air carries a faint scent of minerals and earth, hinting at deeper layers beneath the sand. In ancient times, before Ubar vanished, this region was crossed by hundreds of traders. They led caravans of camels filled with frankincense, gold, spices, and precious cloth. Travelers who passed here at night often reported seeing strange shapes in the dark, shimmering outlines of towers, faint glowing arches, or distant walls that disappeared when approached. These visions, they said, were memories of Ubar drifting across the desert. You walk a little farther, following a natural path created by the terrain. Soon, you come upon something unusual, a long, narrow stretch of land where the sand dips sharply, forming a shallow valley between dunes. The ground here feels more solid, almost as if it once supported buildings, pathways, or foundations long buried beneath the surface. You pause, letting the atmosphere settle around you, sensing the weight of history pressing gently from below. The stories say that Ubar collapsed into a sinkhole, an enormous cavern hidden beneath the city that gave way, without warning, pulling everything downward in a quiet, devastating moment. The desert then covered the remains, smoothing the surface with shifting dunes until all evidence of the city disappeared. Only stories remained, stories and a sense of presence that travelers could sometimes feel when passing through the region. You continue walking through the shallow valley, and with each step the air seems to thicken with memory. The silence grows deeper, more resonant, as though the desert is remembering something far older than any living person. The moonlight reflects off the sand in strange patterns, creating faint illusions of columns, arches, and doorways that vanish the moment you focus on them. The Bedouin believed that the spirits of Ubar still lingered in the desert, not as restless ghosts, but as gentle reminders of a time when vast cities flourished, where now only dunes remain. They believed that if one listened carefully while walking through these places, one might hear faint echoes of the city, the rhythm of caravan bells, the murmur of merchants trading goods, the soft chanting of travelers praying before sleep. You pause at a small rise in the ground and sit down, letting your legs rest in the cool sand. From this vantage point, the shallow valley stretches quietly before you, and beyond it, endless dunes await. The air is perfectly still. Not a single breeze moves across your skin. The silence is total, profound, resting on the land like a heavy, comforting blanket. In moments like this, the desert feels timeless. Past and present blend together, becoming indistinguishable. The stories of Ubar do not belong solely to the past. They exist in the sand, in the wind, in the moonlit stillness that surrounds you. You close your eyes, and for a moment you can imagine the city as it once was. Glowing lanterns hanging from tall buildings, soft music drifting through narrow streets, travelers gathering around fires as the night wrapped around them. But the vision fades slowly, returning you to the peaceful quiet of the desert night. You rise once again and continue your walk, feeling a gentle sense of connection to the land beneath your feet. The shallow valley gives way to open dunes, rising gently in front of you, like soft waves waiting to be crossed. You climb them slowly, your feet sinking into the sand with each step, your breath moving in steady rhythm with the gentle pull of the earth. At the top of the dune, the night opens wide again. You stand still, gazing across the horizon. The desert stretches endlessly calm, silent, ancient. Somewhere far beneath the sand, the memory of Ubar sleeps, untouched and unbothered by the passing of time. And here, beneath the moon and stars, you walk with that memory, carrying it gently in the quiet of your mind. The desert breathes, you breathe with it, and the night continues its slow, soothing journey all around you. The night stretches into a deeper, richer silence as you descend slowly from the high dune where you last paused. The sand beneath your feet feels cooler now, as though it has absorbed enough of the moon's gentle light to release a soothing calm with each step you take. The horizon is wide and clear, an open canvas of pale silver and soft blue blending seamlessly into the darkness above. Everything around you moves at the slowest possible pace. The world is quiet, patient, and deeply serene. You continue your walk, each footstep sinking gently into the sand, leaving a trail that the wind will soon erase. Ahead of you, the land begins to shift once more. The dunes flatten out, forming a vast, open stretch of desert, so smooth and level that it almost looks like an ancient road built for travelers long gone. The air carries a faint scent of cool minerals and distant stone, hinting at mountains that lie beyond the horizon. This region of the desert, the stories say, was once home to some of the oldest tribes of Oman, small groups of wanderers who lived in harmony with the land and passed down stories that blended seamlessly with the quiet rhythm of the earth. Their beliefs formed the foundation of Omani mythology, woven from long nights under the stars, from journeys through the heat of day, and from an understanding that every part of the land, even the empty parts, carries meaning. As you walk across the flat stretch of sand, you notice small patches of desert grass, surviving in the stillness, swaying slightly in the faintest breath of wind. Their presence adds a softness to the landscape, a reminder that life exists even in the harshest places, quietly, patiently, almost unnoticed. The Bedouin believed that such plants marked resting places of harmless spirits, gentle jinn who preferred solitude and calm, choosing to inhabit the small pockets of life that emerged in the desert. You pause beside one small patch of grass, kneeling down to touch the thin blades. They feel cool beneath your fingers, holding the night's softness with surprising clarity. You breathe slowly, letting the quiet deepen around you. The land here feels as though it has been untouched for centuries, as though you are the first person to pass through in a very long time. You rise and continue forward, the flat desert stretching on endlessly. After some time, you notice something faint on the horizon, a slight shimmer, a suggestion of shape where none should exist. As you move closer, the shimmering resolves into low, crumbled lines of stone poking through the sand. Another ancient structure, another forgotten memory of a people who once lived and traveled through these lands. When you reach the ruins, you see that they form the remains of a small settlement, barely more than a ring of old stones and fragments of walls. Time has worn them smooth, and the sand has filled the empty spaces where rooms once stood. The desert has nearly reclaimed this place entirely, yet the stones remain quietly resisting total disappearance. You step into what might have been the center of the settlement. The moonlight pours gently over the stones, illuminating every grain of sand, every curve of the ancient walls. You walk slowly, tracing the outlines with your eyes, sensing the presence of history lingering in the air. Travelers once camped here. Families once lived here. Fires once burned gently where now only sand remains. The stories say that small settlements like this were sometimes protected by kindly jinn spirits who watched over the people, not as guardians in the dramatic sense, but as quiet companions of the night. These spirits lived in the stones, in the wells, in the small courtyards where families gathered. When the settlements were abandoned or swallowed by sand, the jinn remained, lingering peacefully among the ruins, bound not by duty but by memory. You find a place to sit on a low stone, and as you rest, the silence of the ruins deepens. It is a thicker silence than the desert outside, a silence shaped by walls that once echoed with voices, by floors that once felt the footsteps of life. You run your hand gently along the stone beneath you, and it feels warm, softened by centuries of sun. You remain seated for a while, letting your mind drift as gently as the sand carried by the wind. You imagine the settlement alive, the glow of lanterns hanging outside small homes, the quiet murmur of conversations fading into the night, the steady rhythm of life moving at a pace much slower than the world knows today. It is easy to imagine because the desert holds memories, well better than forests, better than mountains, better than cities. The desert forgets nothing. It simply hides things beneath its surface until the world grows quiet enough to hear them. When you stand and begin walking again, the ruins remain behind you, half swallowed by the sand, but fully present in your memory. The land around you rises once more into gentle hills. The air grows even cooler, brushing against your skin like a calm whisper. Your footsteps grow softer on the sand, as if you are moving deeper into a dream. As you walk, you begin to notice something unusual. Small, smooth stones scattered across the dunes in a pattern that appears too deliberate to be random. When you bend down to pick one up, you notice that it is perfectly round, shaped by water long ago, but there is no water here. not for hundreds of miles. These stones are remnants of ancient rivers that once cut through the desert, long before the land dried and the dunes rose. They are reminders that the desert has not always been as it is now. It has changed, breathed, evolved over millennia. The people of ancient Oman believed that jinn lived in rivers before the sands claimed them. These water spirits, they said, became spirits of the desert after the rivers vanished, adapting to the land just as people had. They became quieter, calmer, more patient. Some stories said that if you listened closely enough, you could hear faint echoes of flowing water beneath certain dunes, memories of what once was, held gently by the earth. You walk across the scattered stones, feeling their smooth surfaces under your feet. The wind shifts again, blowing softly from the east. You lift your head and see faint shapes in the distance, darker outlines where the dunes end and rock formations begin. These rocks mark the entrance to the next region of your journey, a region filled with myths that blend the desert with the sea, the land with the horizon, the present with the past. But for now, you simply walk. You breathe. You let the world grow quiet around you. The desert continues its slow, rhythmic pulse. The night wraps itself gently around your shoulders, and you move deeper into the timeless mythologies of Oman, guided only by starlight, stillness, and the soft whisper of the wind. The night deepens further as you approach the dark silhouettes rising gently ahead of you. The dunes begin to fold into long, sloping shapes, curving toward a vast stretch of stone that glimmers faintly in the moonlight. The air shifts, carrying with it a cooler breath, as though this place has been waiting patiently for travelers for centuries, steady, unchanging, timeless. Your steps grow softer as the sand thins beneath you. The ground becomes firmer, the grains more packed, as if pressed down by the slow weight of ancient winds. The silence thickens in a familiar way, not empty, not hollow, but full of calm presence, like a quiet consciousness woven into the landscape itself. Ahead of you, the first rocky formations rise gently from the earth, broad, rounded shapes, smoothed by the erosion of thousands of years. They are warm in tone, subtle reds and browns that glow under the silver moonlight. These stones mark the threshold of the coastal plains, where the desert slowly gives way to the memory of the sea. You pause at the base of the first formation, placing your hand against its surface. The stone is cool and strangely smooth, almost polished. It feels as though it has been touched by countless hands before yours, each leaving behind a trace of warmth, a fragment of story. The ancient tribes of Oman believed that such rocks were resting places for desert spirits, jinn, who preferred silence and stone over wind and sand, beings who observed the world with endless patience. As you begin to climb gently up the slope, you notice faint carvings etched into the rock, simple lines, curved shapes, tiny symbols worn by time. They are almost invisible, but the moonlight catches them in a way that makes them shimmer softly. These markings were not meant to tell stories in the way words do. Instead, they served as reminders of seasons, of travelers, of routes, of moments when the desert met the sea in harmony. At the top of the slope, a wide plateau opens before you, stretching far into the quiet horizon. From here, the world feels enormous and still. The desert behind you rises and falls like a sleeping giant, while ahead, The land begins to flatten toward the distant coastline you cannot yet see but can sense in the air. The faintest traces of salt linger on the breeze, so delicate that you notice it only when you inhale deeply. You take a moment to sit on the cool surface of the plateau, letting your legs rest. The stone beneath you absorbs the soft rhythm of the night, humming quietly with the warmth of the day it once held. You close your eyes listening. At first, you hear only silence, but slowly, beneath the silence, you begin to sense a faint vibration like the soft murmur of waves far, far away. The desert and the sea have always been intertwined in the myths of Oman. Long before the dunes swallowed the land, the coastline extended farther inland, and the sea carried stories of distant lands, strange winds, and unseen creatures. The people of ancient Oman believed that the sea spirits, the mariners among the jinn, often crossed into the desert, bringing with them knowledge of tides, storms, and the deep mysteries of the ocean. As you continue across the plateau, the ground shifts again from smooth stone to a mix of sand and gravel. The moon casts your shadow, long and thin, across the ground, moving quietly with you. Around you, small clusters of hardy shrubs cling to life in the rocky soil, their leaves shimmering faintly under the night sky. You touch one of the shrubs gently, and its branches tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the delicate balance of life it maintains in this place. The ancient Omani believed these desert plants held fragments of the sea's memory. They said that long ago, when the coastline was closer, these shrubs were nourished by salty winds, and even now they carry traces of that ancient world within them. As you move farther across the plateau, the rocks begin to form gentle ridges. They rise and fall like frozen waves, shaped by water that once flowed effortlessly across the land. The air cools even more, and you feel a faint shift in the wind, a new direction, a new temperature, a sign that you are nearing a place where desert and ocean myths begin to overlap. You descend slowly into a shallow valley between two ridges. The sand here is darker, finer, almost silky beneath your feet. The wind moves through the valley in a slow, spiraling pattern, reflecting the movements of water long gone. You walk at an unhurried pace, feeling as though you are walking along the floor of an ancient sea where fish once swam and coral once grew, and where now only silence remains. The valley widens, and in the center you find a cluster of stones arranged in a circle, small, smooth shapes, placed intentionally long ago. You kneel beside them, tracing their gentle curves with your fingertips. These stones are unlike any others in the valley. They are polished, shaped by water, and arranged with purpose. The old stories say that such circles marked meeting places for spirit travelers, jinn who wandered between sea and desert, sharing knowledge with one another at night when the land was quiet and the sky was fully open. They were not spirits of fear or chaos, but of connection, bridges between worlds, guardians of quiet transitions. You sit beside the circle for a while, feeling the deep calm of the valley settling around you. The wind hums softly, brushing past your shoulders like a faint whisper. The sky seems lower here, as though the stars are leaning in to observe your journey, their cold light touching the land in delicate strokes. When you rise and continue, the valley begins to open toward a series of low, rolling dunes leading eastward. The faint smell of salt grows stronger. The air feels different, cooler, heavier, and filled with the promise of something vast and ancient waiting beyond the horizon. You follow the dunes at a slow, steady pace. Your footsteps seem quieter now, almost distant, as if the land itself is cushioning your journey, guiding you gently forward. The night deepens even further, yet the world around you feels brighter, illuminated not only by the moon, but by the calm energy of a land that has existed unchanged for millennia. You walk without rushing. You breathe in the cool desert air, and with every step you move closer to the ancient meeting place of myth, the realm where the stories of the desert begin to blend with the legends of the sea. The night remains soft around you, carrying you deeper into the dreamlike landscapes of Oman, where every stone, every breeze, every shadow holds a fragment of forgotten history. The night carries you onward, deeper into the quiet landscape where the desert slowly begins to change its face. The dunes behind you soften into gentle waves, while ahead the land opens wider, smoother, and more deliberate in shape, as if guiding you forward through ancient pathways carved not by humans but by time itself. The breeze shifts again, cooler now, touched by something faint and distant. You inhale slowly and you sense a subtle difference in the air. A hint of moisture, a ghost of the sea carried across the plains. It is not strong enough to feel familiar, only enough to suggest that the world ahead holds a story unlike the desert behind you. You walk at a calm, steady pace. The terrain changes under your feet. Softer sand gives way to firmer ground, sprinkled with tiny glimmering fragments of shell. You kneel down and lift one, holding it between your fingers. It is small, fragile, and smooth, bleached, pale by centuries of sun and wind. A seashell in the middle of a vast desert, a reminder that the land once touched the ocean directly, long before the sands took over. The ancient people of Oman believed these shells were the remains of stories whispered by the sea spirits, the mariners among the jinn who sailed through unseen currents, drifting from shore to shore. When the sea receded and the dunes rose, these spirits followed the wind inland, carrying with them the memory of tides, storms, and faraway horizons. You continue forward, and slowly the land begins to slope downward. The ground becomes lighter in color, soft beiges and pale yellows that reflect the moon more clearly. The shapes of the dunes flatten into wide, sweeping arcs. It feels as though the desert itself is exhaling, opening into a calmer, gentler region. In the distance, low stone ridges appear thin, curved, like the edges of ancient waves frozen in time. You approach them quietly. Their surfaces are polished by centuries of wind, smooth enough to catch the moonlight in long, glowing lines. When you touch one of the ridges, it carries the coolness of night, but also the faint warmth of a land that has seen thousands of dawns. The stories say that these stones mark the boundary between the desert spirits and the sea spirits. Here, at this quiet borderland, mythic travelers from both worlds would meet jinn of sand and jinn of water, exchanging knowledge in calm, measured rhythm. They did not speak in words, but through the shifting patterns of wind and tide, through silence and movement, through the pulse of the earth beneath their presence. As you walk between the stone ridges, the wind flows in long, smooth currents, as though the land itself breathes in time with your steps. The sky opens wider above you. The moon seems brighter now, illuminating every detail of the landscape. The delicate slopes of sand, the pale stones, the faint shimmer of mineral dust carried across the surface. You wander deeper into this region, moving at a slow, effortless pace. The silence becomes even softer, quieter than before. It is a peaceful silence, not empty, but full of memory, full of presence, full of calm observation. It feels as though the land is aware of your journey, guiding you gently but without urgency. Soon you arrive at a wide circular depression in the earth. The sand inside it is lighter, finer, so sifted by careful hands. In the center lies a line of stones placed in a gentle spiral, curving inward like the shape of a nautilus shell. You step closer and kneel beside it. The spiral feels ancient, older than the ruins you passed before. It is a symbol shared across generations, a reminder of cycles, of journeys, of returning to the beginning by moving forward. The Bedouin believed that the spiral represented the path of the spirit across the land and through time. The people of the coast saw it as the shape of the sea as memory, and the jinn of both realms recognized it as the natural rhythm of existence. You sit beside the spiral for a long while. The wind is gentle, the sand cool beneath your palms, the night deep and calm. You breathe in slowly, letting your thoughts drift like grains of sand carried by the breeze. The world feels vast yet intimate, quiet yet full of presence. The desert does not speak, but somehow you understand its language. When you rise and continue on your path, you walk with quiet purpose. The ground becomes firmer again as you move eastward. The smell of salt in the air grows slightly stronger, and the faintest echo of distant waves, imagined or real, seems to cross your senses every now and then. Your footsteps carry you over a wide plain, scattered with faint glints of polished stones. These stones are smooth and cool, like river pebbles, though no river has flowed here for thousands of years. They whisper of ancient currents, of water that once shaped this land, gently, patiently, endlessly. As you walk across this plain, you feel as though you are walking across two worlds, at once the desert beneath your feet and the ancient sea that once covered this place, both layered upon each other like pages in an endless quiet story. The night remains calm around you, the sky remains bright with stars, and you continue deeper into the mythic landscapes of Oman, carried forward by silence, by moonlight, and by the soft, unbroken rhythm of the earth beneath your journey. The night expands around you like an endless breathing tapestry, its darkness smooth, its silence deep, its stars steady and patient. You continue your journey across the quiet plain, and with every step the world seems to slow even further. Not stop, just slow, as if the desert itself is lowering its voice to a whisper so soft that only those who truly listen can hear it. The ground beneath your feet gradually shifts again. The firm, stone-scattered plains dissolve into a powdery softness, finer than before, almost like walking across sifted moonlight. Each footstep leaves a detailed imprint before the wind gently smooths it over, as if the desert prefers no trace, no record, only the continuous, present moment. Ahead, the horizon stretches impossibly wide, curving ever so slightly as the moonlight touches it. In this strange, serene stillness, depth and distance blend together. There is no rush, no direction to chase, no destination pressing forward. You simply walk, and the desert walks with you. A faint breeze stirs the sand, creating delicate waves that shimmer like liquid silver. It flows around your ankles in a soft, swirling motion, almost playful, as though the desert spirits the wind. Jinn are greeting you silently. They do not appear in physical form. Their presence is felt simply as movement as coolness as a guiding rhythm. You slow your pace, allowing the wind to shape the atmosphere around you. Time loosens, your thoughts drift open, the desert deepens. As you advance, the terrain begins to rise gently. The dunes reappear, but these are different from the ones behind you. They are smoother, wider at the base, and far taller, massive shapes carved by centuries of wind. Their slopes are long and gradual, curving like the surface of sleeping giants. You approach the first dune and begin ascending it slowly. With every step upward, the world behind you sinks lower and quieter until the plain becomes only a soft shadow. The higher you climb, the more expansive the night becomes. The wind at the top is cooler, carrying with it something faint, something that feels like a memory of distant water, distant rain, distant storms that once moved across this land long before humans walked upon it. When you reach the crest of the dune, the view opens into an astonishing sight. Below you lies a valley of glowing sand, not glowing brightly, only carrying a pale, whispering luminescence like moonlight held within each grain. The dunes curve around it in large arcs, forming a natural amphitheater, carved not by people but by time. At the center of the valley stands a stone structure, massive, circular, and partially buried. You descend the slope in a slow, careful rhythm. The sand is deep here, and each step sinks gently, guiding you downward. The air grows stiller, warmer. The dunes around you block the wind, creating an enclosed silence more profound than any before. When you reach the valley floor, you approach the stone circle. It is ancient, far older than the ruins you saw earlier. It looks as though it once formed a full ring, but centuries of shifting sand have half submerged it. Only the tops of the monolithic stones remain visible, worn smooth by the desert. You run your hand along one. The stone is warm, deeply warm, in a way that suggests it holds heat, not just from the sun, but from something beneath the surface. The old people of Oman believed that circles like this marked places where the oldest jinn, the jinn of the earth, slept beneath the ground. These were not spirits of mischief or harm, but ancient guardians of memory, connected to the deep layers of the world. They were said to dream slowly, shaping the land through their slumber. You sit at the edge of the stone circle. The air here feels different, thicker, deeper, almost humming with a quiet resonance. The silence is not empty. It has weight. It feels like the hush inside an ancient library or the calm before dawn. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the atmosphere wash over you. Your breath slows, your muscles soften, your thoughts drift like dust carried on the wind. When you finally stand, you walk deeper into the valley. The dunes curve inward, guiding you further, almost as if forming a soft, sandy pathway. In the far distance, you see something new, something glinting faintly. At first, it appears only as a reflection, then a line, then a shape. As you draw closer, you realize it's a series of ancient stones arranged in long, curving formations, much like the ripple patterns of water. These stones are smaller than the monoliths, but they stretch far, forming lines that weave gently across the valley floor. The people of long ago believed these patterns represented the paths of jinn who traveled beneath the earth, moving like underground rivers of energy. They said that if you walked along these lines with a calm mind and a steady breath, you would feel the heartbeat of the desert itself. You step onto the first line of stones. Nothing dramatic happens, no sudden shift, no burst of sensation, only a soft, subtle awareness, a faint pulsing under your feet, a gentle warmth. The rhythm is slow, matching your breathing, or perhaps your breathing is matching it. You walk slowly along the stones, following their winding path. The moonlight creates long shadows that stretch across the valley. The dunes rise around you like massive walls, but they are gentle, protective, holding the night inside their embrace. As you walk, you begin to feel as though you are walking through time rather than space. The present moment stretches and softens. You sense the lives of those who passed here before you, their footsteps, their stories, their quiet rituals under the moon. You imagine caravans crossing the desert centuries ago, their lanterns glowing like fireflies. You imagine ancient navigators following the stars, whispering prayers to the wind. You imagine elders sitting in circles, telling stories of jinn who lived in stones, sand, and sky. You imagine the valley filled with life, a place of meeting, rest, and memory. And now you are a part of that memory. The path of stones eventually leads you to another dune. This one is enormous, its slope smooth, unbroken, stretching upward in a single graceful curve. You begin your ascent. The sand here is cooler than before, and the climb is long, but your steps remain slow and steady. Halfway up, the breeze returns. It brings with it a new scent, faint salt, carried from far beyond the desert. You follow the wind, climbing higher until you finally reach the crest. What you see takes your breath softly, quietly, almost reverently. Ahead of you, the dunes fall away into a vast, open expanse where sand meets stone, and stone meets the faint shimmer of distant water. Far, far beyond the desert, glistening like a silver thread under the moon, lies the sea. Not close, not reachable tonight, but visible. A thin, beautiful line where the land touches another world. The ancient myths say that this is where the sea jinn and the desert jinn meet during certain nights of the year, exchanging stories carried by wind and tide. You stand there for a long while, the desert behind you, the sea ahead, the moon above, the wind around you. You feel no need to move. The world is perfectly still, perfectly balanced, perfectly quiet. A place where land, memory, night, and myth blend into one soft, endless dream. You stay there, and the desert stays with you.